So I am Amy Krauss. I am incoming visiting assistant professor in the Feminist Studies department. And today I'm very happy to have the chance to talk with Daisy Orellana. She graduated from UCSC in 2019 as a Feminist Studies major with a science and technology and medical concentration. During her time at UCSC, Daisy did a UC Davis study abroad health internship in Oaxaca, Mexico, and also interned with ACCESS Reproductive Justice. After graduating, Daisy worked as an abortion fund hotline operator at ACCESS RJ and as a residential counselor at Delaney House, a transitional housing program in San Francisco specialized in supporting pregnant and postpartum folks. In 2022, Daisy moved to Washington, DC, and is currently working there as an abortion doula at a third trimester abortion clinic. Ultimately, she hopes to return to the Bay Area to study midwifery. So Daisy, if we could just start with you telling us a little bit about your current work as an abortion doula, a little bit about your day-to-day there at the clinic.
So I work here at a clinic called DuPont. It's like only one of three, about to be 4 clinics in the US that offer third trimester abortion care. And specifically here, my role is called patient care guide. I think more commonly it's like known as kind of an abortion doula role. And my responsibility overall, or like my goal with every patient I get, is to be their support emotionally, physically, mentally, to guide them through this process. Ultimately, just because people, it's kind of a traumatic journey to get here. People get turned away left and right from other clinics for various reasons, find out they're pregnant at the gestation that they are, because of the lack of body like knowledge there is in the world, the lack of support, or just the barriers like the layer care. So folks come in here, it's kind of like a sigh of relief that they made it, you know. But then everything that we've told them over the phone about what this care looks like is like gone. So kind of in the time that we're here, everyone presents themselves as they are, and I accept how they are, and I would just ask them, kind of, what can I do for you to make you feel as comfortable as possible, and to make this as like positive an experience as possible, even if many folks really don't want to be here, you know. And so it looks like kind of going into how it looks like day to day. Our day one, we meet people. They meet the whole team. It's really private care where people get their own individualized rooms, and they don't run into any other patient. We have it's atypical in an abortion clinic. And we do the first part of the procedure today, which is an injection, to kind of help us supporting them in that first step of stopping the fetal heart rate, which can be a lot for some people, depending on if there's a desired pregnancy, there's an anomaly, things like that, or just in general, if they're scared of needles. It can be for various reasons. And I'm just here to make that experience like a little bit easier. On day 2, we do dilators that we place into the cervix to help them open up a little bit more in a gentle way. And I'm there to kind of also guide them to that appointment, let them know like that they're going to be safe, what the precautions are, and just make them as cozy as possible. And on day 3, we have an induction of labor, basically. We get some bag of waters and remove the pregnancy in a second step. And so during that whole part, I'm providing comfort measures, whether that's back rubs, heating pads, getting them some medication in the room. Often this whole part involves me demystifying and kind of helping build trust with me and them, then build trust with the providers that we have in clinic, because I'm the main person that's providing the continuity of care. Other nurses transition in and out, but our patient care guides, like me, stay with that patient the whole time, all 3 days. And getting that person that stays consistent, which you don't honestly even see in birth work, which I used to do. The nurses come in and out, the doctor changes in shift. And so I think it's a special touch here, and what drew me to this clinic was the patient-centered care model that is existing here.
That's such important work. How did your feminist studies major in your studies at UCSC influence your career path?
Yeah, I would say like those are classes, introducing topics I didn't really like know before. So like I know I was interested in science, and I was interested in like a gendered lens, but in my science classes they weren't enough that I would take because I entered UC Santa Cruz. as a biochemistry major. And I was really interested in that stuff, but I felt when I was in those classes, I wasn't really getting the perspective or the conversations that was exciting me. And I just saw through like the catalog at Santa Cruz, like there was a feminism and science coursework. And that class was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for, like a discussion on science, a discussion on health, but more realistically to my lived experience of what I'm seeing back at home of like chronic illness with my mother, the structural failures in the health system. It's not just like very black and white and objective, but like giving it like a more like analysis. So I just felt really encouraged when I was sampling some GEs at UC Santa Cruz to continue taking some courses. And I also really appreciated how like the major is interdisciplinary. And so I could bring the lens I was learning in my more general classes, but also these classes that were accepted as interdisciplinary in the major had a feminist lens. So like I took like sociology of health and science. I took sociology of drugs, botanicals and pharmaceuticals, and that counted towards my feminist studies degree. And so just really appreciated how my vision for what I wanted to do and build my studies and the topics was possible through this department.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like you carved a really good path. And so are there ways that some of the coursework that you did is supporting you now in this difficult, complicated work that you're doing, which requires so much care? And, yeah.
I feel like it gives me like a better lens to understanding what I'm witnessing, to kind of like break it down to make it more understandable instead of just witnessing a lot of experiences, but kind of understanding what are the like the structures at play. Like for example, I used to work at a homeless shelter, and I was like, I would get really upset about all the cameras in the rooms and like the way we had like all these policies in place. And I was like, I felt like my feminist studies major really taught me about like surveillance and like how we control bodies and like who was disproportionately represented in the shelter system, like and how like policies around like invasion in other countries like Honduras, or like the policies like not having documentation or not having like good welfare policies, like all came into play into how this direct service is existing here. So I really appreciate that link, so it doesn't make me go crazy when I see all the awful stuff happening. And I think I then also bring it to my patients and being like, you know, like what you've gone through is not normal in your journey to get to this abortion clinic, and like it's not fair. We had to advocate for all this funding to pay for this 15 grand procedure that costs this clinic because there's no insurance. Like this is not anything, it's not you or your moral failing, like it's our country's purposeful policies that are gender violence and folks who can get pregnant, you know? So I don't go into that depth necessarily, but I really just try to acknowledge and take a pause of like what you're going through shouldn't be normalized. And I'm grateful that my major taught me kind of how to dissect these kind of situations.
I really like how you put that, like that the sense of injustice can be so overwhelming that feminist studies gave you kind of conceptual tools to position yourself, empowers you in that way. So what was your favorite feminist studies course? Maybe you already mentioned it. But...
well, there was like, I thought they were all really good. There were some outside of the major that I really enjoyed too, but internally, I was trying to think about that. There was a summer, I took summer session at UC Santa Cruz, and it was a feminist studies course. And I looked at the syllabus, I couldn't remember what the class was called. It was Feminist Studies 105. It was like a critical race and queer feminisms. And what was really cool was I felt like the specific lens it was using felt close to me. Like someone identifies as queer, you know, as a person of color. And it was also during a time that I believe like gay marriage became legal. But I appreciated the like the conversation that was taking place about like what is marriage even a tool for, like why is it we're using such terms, and so I really appreciated the timeliness in the class and the conversations taking place. And it was like a more intimate class with like a few people since it was summer session. Yeah, I would say that one was one of my more enjoyable ones.
Yeah, sounds great. And what was the most important thing you learned as a feminist studies?
For me, like I think like what I didn't why I was drawn to like sciences at first, and I still like am drawn to like science and healthcare and all that stuff. But like I felt like the way I was being taught in those classes, I wasn't really taught to own my voice or form my own opinions and form my own analysis. So when I started switching to more like humanities and social science classes, my second/third year of college, I was like, whoa, I have opinions, I have thoughts, and like I can look at something and analyze it and be like, this is suggesting this is telling of this, these are contradictions. And I feel like that it just built that skill with time of kind of taking case studies in each class that I took and piecing like kind of dissecting pieces, articles. I kind of take that tool into like my day to day of like, sometimes I feel like I tell my friends, sometimes I feel like what I'm witnessing in my class, in my clinic could be a book, could be like an ethnography, you know, like if like this person's story is what they quote in the books. If there was someone who was an IRB, you know, permission, like it's totally possible. Like this is a very like, I think I step back and think like, wow, I'm really witnessing this clinic, third trimester care with the fall of Roe. Like that's huge. Like I could be taking my own notes here and like coding them 10 years from now to like kind of look back at what I was seeing as patterns and themes.
Is that something that you'd like to do, is kind of integrate a writing practice into your work, or is it just?
I think it'd be good because I forget a lot. And I think like there's so many things worth like capturing here and moments in time that I want to reflect on as I grow and as a writer in the future.
Yeah, well, I think I would be really excited to read your reflections someday. Well, those are all the questions we have. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with feminist studies students?
Yeah, like I would say like explore all kinds of jobs. Like if you see in like my bio, like I was looking back and thinking I've only been out of college since 2019 and I've probably had like 6 different jobs already. But like you can do so much with your major. You can make a difference in many kinds of ways, and to like not let go of what you learned in college when you come into like the nonprofit system. Because I thought maybe everything I learned in college is a lie, and like this is actually the way things are supposed to be. And the nonprofit can be really hard and like kind of soul killing, to be honest. And so I think it's important to take the convictions and the values and your feminism with you to your job, and to like not let it go, and to like value the perspective and like the experience you contribute to the space that you're coming to. So I think it is like a special thing that you got to build and use in Santa Cruz, and it's just so valuable. To don't let it go. It'll matter a lot with people, and that you'll be advocating and making a lot of difference in people's lives thanks to you holding on to that.
Thank you so much, Daisy. It's really wonderful to meet you. And as someone coming into the department, it's really exciting to hear from you as an alum, and the work you're doing is so important. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, really glad to meet you. I know that you're doing also important work around abortion. I think we all make a difference in this movement and contribute to how access can be better.
Yeah.